G'day folks. Oh, it's back to the Daewoo again. It's not extremely hot outside, although it's still definitely an air conditioning day. Yeah, I'm just working out the best plan of attack to dismantle this. Just draining the radiator at the moment. It's kind of nasty. It hasn't turned to acid yet, but the head gasket's definitely leaking. When I last started it, you can see bubbles foaming up through the coolant reservoir and pressurising the system immediately. That means you have high pressure gas from the combustion chambers leaking into the cooling system. Yay! I also noticed this rotor is well worn on one side and not on the other, so this caliper's seized. And the pads are well and truly gone, like they're about as bad as the Micra's pads, which is almost down to metal. Yeah, there's not a lot of good things to say about this car. The struts might be okay, but that looks like the chrome's missing off there, so that one's not long for the world. Yeah, tie rods and steering rack, that's all got to be unbolted. I might just get the Sawzall out and cut that off. Trying to separate tie rod ends when you don't need to is a bit of a pain. I don't know, that's fairly thick steel, so maybe the Sawzall will have a bit of trouble. I don't want to get the 9-inch grinder out because it's a total fire ban, and probably will be for the next week. But either way, we do it the harder way. Can't get an oxy torch either. There's a big bolt there holding that wishbone or whatever is in place. There's a bushing up there which has to be undone. I have to compress this strut, I think. I have to get the jack underneath it and compress it after taking this big nut off, which is also staked on. So yes, lots of pieces to come off before I can get the power pack out as a whole unit. That's the fun part. How's that shaft held in there? Yeah, getting the drive shafts out's half the fun of it too. Yeah, not sure how he's held in there. I'll have to figure that one out later. Anyway. Okay, well, I want to drain the fluids out of this car first as well, so I'm going to have to undo power steering and brakes and bleed it out. I'd rather not make a mess on the ground right where I do a lot of traffic and moving around. So yeah, best to do it responsibly into a container. But I've got some dicey old regular spanners, but they have a habit of stripping brake line nuts. Anyone who's worked on cars a lot knows what I mean. I don't do a lot of brake work at all, and I still know the frustration of having a very stubborn brake line nut. So I'm going to go to Repco and use this as an opportunity to buy a brake line spanner, which looks like a big chunky ring spanner that someone's cut a section out of. So you fit it over the line, down onto the nut, and you get much better grip over it. Like, you rarely strip one with a brake line spanner. Hell, I might even buy a pair, because I've got a feeling I'm going to need 2 of them. Shouldn't be too hard after that, because I want to save some of these high pressure hoses for other high pressure experiments. Like, they're not cracked, they're just old. They're quite handy. Really handy, actually. I've used them for high pressure refrigerant compressor experiments using very high pressure air, and they don't break, they don't pop, unless they're very, very tired, in which case you should have thrown them in the bin to begin with. Is there an oil filler on this gearbox? I was looking for one of them the other day and I don't think there is. It's just sealed for life. You've got to drop that little pan underneath the differential to drain the oil out of it. Oh, I'll worry about that when I get it off. The engine's definitely drained though, all the oil's out of that. A lot of coolant's out, but there's no drain plug on the block that I can see. I don't think so anyway. But yeah, good starter motor to pillage. Lots of good bits in these cars. Even though they're simple and cheap and people rag on them for being pieces of junk, you can still have a lot of fun. Just bit by bit, I'm not in any hurry. Little washer pump. Cool. Okay, well that's what you need for most brake work. That's for the older style fittings, the old Imperial ones, and the Daewoo uses 10mm nuts mostly. So 1011 and the 3/8 and 7/16 AF. Nice little tools to have in the kit, and as you can see they're just a beefed up partial ring spanner, I guess, that's just had a bit cut out of it to fit over the line and then down. And they work quite well. They're about $18 each, so a bit expensive, but they're an invaluable bit of kit, not just for brake lines, but air lines and other little fittings, if you've got some nice compression fittings or flare nuts, that sort of thing. Okay, well I decided I'm going to make this as easy to work on as possible by stripping away this whole corner panel and everything like that. So I got the liner out, which is just little plastic clips which are easily removed with a cordless drill. Yeah, they're a regular clip with a pin through the middle, but the thing is it's a blind pin, so once they push it in you can't get it out again without getting to the other side, so I just drilled the guts out of them and pop. People were wondering what I did with the scrap materials from the car, and well, if it's mostly metal it goes in the metal pile, if it's mostly plastic it goes in the rubbish pile. It's about as simple as that. That goes to the tip, that goes to the scrapyard. Although this is polypropylene, so yeah, it's polypropylene, so it's a good fire lighter actually for winter time. Polyprop breaks down into carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and water vapour when it burns. So, and a bit of carbon black from the black master batch that they put into it. So it's actually very environmentally friendly when it comes to burning plastics. Not like computer boards or polycarbonate or ABS, which is really nasty smelling stuff. This is probably the most, this and polyethylene, PP and PE are both the most friendly plastics that you can burn because it's just carbon products and water vapour. So that'll go down the back of the shed and more than likely end up at the tip because this hot weather isn't giving up, and I don't think we'll have fires for quite a while yet. Yeah, you can see the routing the loom through there. Nice little rust spot where all the debris collects behind the liner, and the windscreen washer bottle, front and rear pumps. Yeah, one of these lines, that line there would probably go down the back, and that one there seems to go through the firewall to the side and probably up to the window washer jets. Pretty easy. So I'll take those two out. There's two down there. I've already taken these ones out. There's 4, 5 screws. There's one in there. And that's it. It's just a matter of removing all these screws, and these fenders or corner panels just come straight off. Okay, and on side B we have much of the same, but instead of a washer bottle we've got air intake. That's like a resonance chamber and water trap. I'm guessing there's a drain hole in the bottom of it. That's the actual intake under the quarter panel, and it goes up through there to the air filter box and then to the flexi attachment to the manifold. It's got some nice cracks in it. That's one thing to watch. If you've got a MAF meter between the intake and the or if you've got a flex hose between the MAF meter and the intake and it's got cracks in it, and you'll be getting bad readings on your air intake. So it's very important to make sure that that's in good nick. I had that problem with the Range Rover at first, or one of many problems, but fixing the cracked intake hose improved the fuel-air ratio a lot. Yeah, that's just a plastic pan. That can all come off. That can come off. I'm just going to go and unbolt a whole heap of shit. I don't think I have to decompress these. I might just have to support it with the jack and then undo it all and just lower it down till the strut extends all the way up. They should come out as a sealed unit, or single piece, I guess. Just undo the nuts holding that plate there and just drop the whole lot. So you come off, then that, and then that. Oh, it looks like it has copper Never-Seez on it too. Inox is working. Got a new can of Inox to help loosen things up a bit, or at least make it easier to spin nuts off. Yeah, see, this drive shaft's much longer because the differential's on the other side, but they all work the same. That's a flexi attachment for the exhaust. That's not a cat or anything like that. That's just a flexible coupling. Absorbs twisting and movement from the engine. Yeah, looks like it's been leaking up there too at the cat. Lots of rigid lines, brake lines and fuel lines running underneath, under that cover. There's a handy little item to pick if you're ever scrapping a car and you're into electronics. The washer bottle. I know these pumps aren't really designed to run full time, like constantly, but you can actually run them for quite a while, and they're handy for cooling small semiconductors. I wouldn't use it as a CPU cooler. You'd need like a 1/2 inch flow or something like that, but for a like a MOSFET cooler or something like that, a voltage reg cooler, they can be quite handy, so they're worth hanging on to. Like, that's a complete reservoir and everything, so that's a keeper. What else? There's not much else there apart from the suspension stuff, so we'll look into breaking that down next. Oh yeah, and under that cover is belt access for the aircon compressor and also pretty good harmonic balancer access. You pretty much change it all right here without having to take the engine out. On the Nissan Micra, I don't think that's quite possible. That's all sheeted in and it's quite hard to work on it, which is a pain. But yeah, you can see the compressor's been blowing oil out of its main seal, so that's why there was virtually no gas left in it. There's a crankshaft position sensor. Yeah, you can see the start spot, I think that is. It's an inductive sensor, like a proximity sensor. So every time one of those lugs passes it, it detects its proximity. What else is there? I'll get further into it. I want to get some of this apart. We'll try and undo these ball joints. I don't like my chances, but who cares? I'm not keeping them. I might as well just belt the crap out of it with a hammer until it comes off. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Get the old hammer out. There's a lot of stuff to disconnect though. Okay, I've got the tie rod ends off. Although it buggers the nut up a bit, you strike it that way with the hammer and it pushes sort of against the taper and pops it out. If you're just pushing straight up, it doesn't work as well. You can stand there all day and beat the crap out of it, it doesn't go anywhere, but hit it sideways and up and then it'll pop out after a few blows. Or should anyway. Sometimes they don't. But that's ready to come off. I'll leave them there as it is for now. I want to get these shafts out, but I'm just looking on downloading a service manual just to work out how to disconnect the transmission ends, because they're not like the normal ones with a bolted flange. These are kind of special, so I'll work that one out in the meantime, and we'll separate the strut, all of that other junk there. Yeah, shouldn't be too hard. I just want to get all this off and then on the other side, and then I can drop the engine out. That'll be easy. Undo lower motor mounts first, remove all the ancillaries that I can, and then out it goes. Yeah, it looks like those 3 bolts in the centre there hold most of it. That's like a torque arm mount. Yeah, there's the centre mount there underneath. Alright, that's not hard. Okay, well I found a manual, but it doesn't seem to say anything about having to unbolt them from the transaxle, so one can only assume that they're designed to float in and out a little bit under normal conditions. Sort of like a tail shaft on a transmission. That's not actually bolted in. You can pull the yoke out once you drop the shaft, so I think that's what this is doing. If you yank the gearbox out of a northwest or longitudinally organised car, you can just pull the end of the shaft out and it just drops on the ground and you start losing gearbox oil everywhere. And that's what it says in this thing. Put a pan under it and catch it. So looks like I'm draining the gearbox before it comes out.